Hi, I'm Perry Atkinson, General Manager here at theDove. Hey, check out our other videos and check out our website at thedove.us. Welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson, and we got a couple things I want to bring you up to date on, and then we have a special guest joining us in a little bit. First of all, tonight there is a special opportunity for you to hear all of the candidates running for the Republican nomination to run up against sitting U.S. Senator Jeff Merkely. All of the 6 major candidates will be in town tonight for a special forum, and it's going to be held at the Jackson County Library there in Medford, or here in Medford. And I've been given the honor to moderate that event. So if you can make it out, it'll be at 6:30. I would suggest maybe getting there a little early to get a seat. And it'll be a great opportunity to hear all of the candidates ask or answer a variety of questions. And again, that's being hosted by the Jackson County Republican Central Committee. And that'll be tonight, 6:30. At the library in downtown Medford, and hope to see you there. Coming up in a few moments, we're going to have Jason Conger join us. He's going to be, or he is one of the candidates vying for that nomination. We'll be talking to him coming up in just a few moments. And another thing I want to remind you of, coming up Thursday at 11 o'clock in the morning, there's a special opportunity for area pastors or representatives from your church to come and be with myself and others, and David Crow from Restore America will be providing lunch. And we'd love to see you there. This is an opportunity to learn all about the do's and don'ts of voter registration in your church, and in particular how important it is during this upcoming election cycle that we get Christians who are eligible to be registered, to get them registered, and most importantly, to get them out and vote. This is something that you can do. It's totally legal to do this in your church. And I think when you see David Crow's presentation, he has a PowerPoint. It's very, very powerful. And you see the PowerPoint of not only the history, some of our U.S. history, and then how it ties into the church, and then how it ties into the statistics as it relates to the state of Oregon. As we go into this election cycle, it is very critical. Did you know that in the state of Oregon, we have 300,000 people who are eligible to vote? These are evangelical Christians who are eligible to vote that didn't vote, didn't register. If we can change that by 10%, just 10%, you'd sway just about any election in this state. And how important it is in these days in which we live. This all sounds political. And that's how a lot of people would say we can't get involved because of that. It's nonsense. There is a civic responsibility as much as there is a Christian responsibility to be good stewards of the resources and those things that God has put into our hands and be entrusted with. And part of that is your civic responsibility to be good citizens, to register to vote, and to vote. And it's very critical that you understand going into the primary season, which is in May here in the state of Oregon, that you understand who these candidates are, what they stand for, and what they represent. So, pastors, let me encourage you. If you got a letter from us, would you call that number in the letter and let us know that you're coming so that we can make sure we have enough to provide for lunch? And if you can't make it, would you appoint somebody from your church to go? Or perhaps a board member, or maybe you and a couple of your board members could come and listen. And I'm telling you, you will be inspired. It is a wonderful opportunity to learn the facts. So I encourage you, if you can, call the number on that letter and get to us as soon as you can, that you can be there on Thursday at 11 o'clock, and it's going to be over at the First Church of the Nazarene. So we ask you to be a part of that. All right, again, reminding you tonight at 6:30, however, the Republican candidates for the Republican nomination for to run up against sitting U.S. Senator Jeff Merkely will be tonight at 6:30. There at the library in Medford, and we certainly encourage you to be a part of that. Well, I'm honored to have with us today one of the candidates who's going to be there tonight, and he's already making the media rounds, but now he has arrived at the media source, theDove. We got Jeff Conger with us this morning. Hi, Jeff. How are you?
Jason. It's Jason. I'm running against Jeff Merkely, though, so that's a good association.
Well, I should have known that, my son. Yeah. How you doing?
I'm fantastic.
You're making the rounds.
I am. I'm making the rounds, trying to rush around. I was very disciplined, by the way. As I walked in, you didn't look away from the camera or anything, or break stride. I know I'm with a real veteran.
Nice to have you, Jason. And you guys are all in town. Look forward to tonight. But I wanted to have some time with you and hear where you're going with this your candidacy and this campaign. How's it going for you? You've been in it how long now?
Well, we officially announced October 15th. Okay. It seems like that was October 15th of 1972 right now, but it's going really well. It's a lot of work. It's a big state. I mean, I know I'm saying the obvious. Running statewide is challenging. Yeah. But it's also very rewarding.
Good for you.
You know, you see. Lots of communities. You see the good and the bad. You see communities that are suffering and some that are doing well. You meet a lot of people and learn a lot about our state and the people of the state. And that's all good things.
Well, you know, I've heard nothing but good things about your campaign. What led you to do this?
Well, I think with most candidates who are challenging an incumbent or who intend to challenge an incumbent, you start with dissatisfaction with the incumbent and see the need to replace the person who holds the office now, who's representing us, which is Jeff Merkely, and certainly that's the case with me. And then it's probably a sense that I have something to offer. I know how to win tough races. I've done it, and this is going to be a tough race. So, and the bigger motivation for me, though, is I see people, just average, everyday Oregonians, people who are working, trying to support their families, thinking about, how am I going to retire? How am I going to pay for my kids' college? And I think, by and large, they feel left behind. They feel like nobody's out there fighting for them. And I really want them to know someone I will stand up for them and represent them, fight for them, and win.
You know, I'm sure, Jason, you'd have to admit that the country's in a mess. And we have a sitting senator that has voted for just about everything that put us in that mess.
Absolutely.
I mean, I went into, with all due respect to Senator Merkley's voting record, I went in and looked around and I thought, he supported everything that the president has wanted, and even some things that are even further left than that. And you kind of go, what's he really done for the state of Oregon that has improved it?
Well, I haven't found anything yet. I've looked too, Perry, and it's it's like I don't know. It's strange. This is a time, obviously, where we've had a real hard time economically. People are struggling, and you would think there would be, some motivation on the part of our U.S. senator to try to do some things that would help in Oregon. And he has the most liberal voting record in the United States Senate,
right?
Which is not consistent with Oregon. Oregon is not the most liberal state. Right. The people of Oregon are not the most liberal in the country, and you don't see. I mean, I'm not positive, but I don't think he's passed a single bill in almost 6 years in office.
No, I don't think he has either. But at the end of the day, we're in a mess. They have to be held accountable.
Absolutely.
And I think that, if you can take Obamacare on down to cover Oregon to all the issues, and I do want you to highlight some of the concerns you have, but
sure.
He's got to be replaced, in my opinion. He's got to be. What's he done for families?
Right.
What's he done for traditional values? What's he done for the economy of Oregon? I mean, can you name anything that he could hang his hat on and call it good legislation?
Well, a lot of things that hurt, nothing that has helped. Not that I can see.
Of all the issues out there, and there's a lot of them.
Sure.
Healthcare is hitting us right in the pocket. We have the economy. The culture and all of its issues seem to be upside down. How would you prioritize those in your campaign? How do you see the most important thing as a U.S. Senator down to the least?
So the most important thing is not the most important thing. It's the most immediate, and that's to get rid of Obamacare. Right. My concern is that the longer the law stays in place, the more of it becomes goes into effect, causes harm, but also changes the healthcare system. Right. And so if we wait too long to get that law taken out of statute, it will be much harder on the system to get it out. The system will adapt, the healthcare system will adapt to the law, and then it becomes a lot harder. So it's got to be done.
Have you done the research that can it be done away with? Can it be removed? Can we defund Obamacare? Can we get rid of it?
Well, the legislature writes the laws, as you know, and if Republicans hold majorities in the House and Senate after the 2014 elections, which I believe we will, then there's no reason we can't change the law, which just means taking the statute out. As you know, it's certainly possible to do that. Now, I think we need to replace it with some good health care reform that will bend the cost curve and do some of the things that we all agree need to be done, but not be as vast, far-reaching, costly, and top-down driven as Obamacare.
All right, I got to take a break here in just a second. Before we do, where would you be on the deficit spending or raising the debt limit?
Well, it's first of all, you can't if you allow constant debt limit increases, then you're part of the problem, right? And so there needs to be, though, a focused effort on balancing the budget. It's going to take a couple of years, but it certainly can be done. And then you don't have to raise the debt limit anymore. You can start paying it down.
Okay. All right. We'll be right back. And our special guest this morning is Jason Conger. He's one of the candidates, and he'll be a part of the forum tonight. And we hope that maybe you can make it out to that. We'll take a quick break, and we'll come back and ask him a ton of questions in just a moment. Okay, we're back, and delighted to have in the studio with us today Jason Conger. He's one of the Republican candidates running for the Republican nomination to go up against sitting U.S. Senator Jeff Merkely. And of course, here comes May, and that's the primary month in the state of Oregon. And I have to tell you, folks, primaries are very, very important. As you know, as a candidate,
absolutely,
I can tell you as former chairman, a lot of people just don't get involved in the primaries, and yet that's where the big decisions are really made. So you can get a good candidate up against the other candidate in the fall. We got a list of things. Let me just go through them real quickly, and forgive me if we go too fast here, but I want to and by the way, you can come tonight and you can hear a little bit longer answers. Where are you on the life issue and the abortion issue?
Pro-life.
Are you?
Yep, have been for a lot of years. I grew up in a liberal household. I thought I was pro-choice, and then I had a son, and my wife's always been 100% pro-life, and over time, I thought about it a lot. I think it's a really important issue, and I do understand why people disagree, but I'm openly pro-life, and always have been since I've been in politics.
Good. Where are you with the Second Amendment issue?
Also a kind of plain language, original intent view of the Constitution, including the Second Amendment. And the language of the Second Amendment is pretty plain, pretty apparent. So I'm a strong supporter of Second Amendment rights.
How do you balance environmental issues with conservation issues? How do you see that argument?
Well, it's interesting. I don't think the two are always in tension. I'll give you an example. A very important issue to a lot of rural Oregon is active management of our federal forests. Well, between Bend and Salem, I have to drive through the B&B complex fire over a decade later. It's not regenerating. It was obviously very, very hot, burned down into the ground, killed everything, and it's not growing back, other than right next to the road where all the the stuff scatters off the road, and apparently that helps trees grow. So I think there's a way, and I believe this sounds almost cliche, but there's a way to balance our needs to have wood and jobs and other resources with our desire to have clean water, clean air. Those things are not mutually exclusive. Now, it does require good stewardship, but good stewardship is not letting it burn. That has, I think, does more damage to wildlife, does more damage to the ecology of the forest than our past timber harvest practices.
Do you think the state is very capable of managing its own resources, so to speak? Is that there's this threat that the Fed would come in and shut more down for who knows what reason?
So you're asking about like the state-owned forest or the state regulation?
Well, I know we have state-owned
forest.
forest, we have federal-owned forest.
Yeah.
But it seems to me that the people are shut out on the federal level from making any kind of decisions. It's whatever the what would you do to say, hey, wait a minute, we can manage this just fine. There's some resources there, and everybody benefits from it.
Yeah, well, I think one thing you can do is try to create more local control, and certainly, as conservatives, that's something that I think pretty much universally we think is better. The closer it is to, the closer the decisions are made to the actual people who are there, who live there, the better. And I think we could do that in a variety of ways. Obviously there's the O&C lands bills,
right.
And there's some effort to say, let's have the state involved in managing those federal lands. That might be one version of a solution, or it might be that decisions are made through local bodies and then applied on federal lands. Or lands could be turned over to some federal lands could be turned over to the state. However it occurs, there needs to be more active management of those lands, and it is critical. And it's critical not just because of the ecology, which we already talked about, but it's critical because communities in Oregon, rural Oregon, southern Oregon especially, don't have a tax base because the federal government owns so much of the land within the counties and doesn't pay taxes. And we need those jobs, we need people working, we need the wood, we need the value-added manufacturing that comes with it, and we need the tax revenue to support schools and law enforcement and local communities.
All right, a couple of other issues. We just had a call about GMOs. Where would you be on the GMO argument?
Well, it's interesting. I'm not a huge fan of GMOs. I'm actually, I don't know whether it's a little libertarian in this or what, but I have a lot of suspicion about the impact of things like GMOs and chemicals and other things that are just in our day-to-day life now, in our modern life, on health, especially health of developing, kids. Right. So I have a lot of concerns about it. At the same time, I also know that GMOs are pretty critical to provide food, and disrupting our larger food supply is not prudent. You don't want people to starve. So where am I on GMOs? Very suspicious, but also very cautious about how they get regulated as our understanding of them develops. I'd like to see, a lot more scientific knowledge about what the impact of GMOs might be, and I'd like to see. But again, I don't think the solution is to take them out of the food, out of the production of food, en masse. I don't think that will work.
Immigration, big issue. It looked like the House is not going to produce an immigration bill going into this election cycle. Probably politically wise at the moment, but where are you with that?
Well, I think amnesty has not worked well in the past, and it is probably, amnesty is not something we should do this time. The implication of amnesty is it's okay to break the law, and I don't think we should send that message whether we agree with the law as it is now or not. But clearly we have millions of people in this country who are undocumented. Some of them are paying taxes, but they're doing it, under a fraudulent Social Security number. And they're performing jobs, they have lives, they have homes here. So something has to be done to deal with that population, and it's not kicking them back across the border. Somebody said that, and I tried to imagine what it would look like for 10 million people to be forced out of the country, and I can't imagine it. Of course not. It's not going to happen. So we need longer term work visas. I think we need to offer work visas to people who are here illegally if they can find a sponsor and they don't have a criminal background. And a sponsor could be a church, could be an employer, anything like that. But I think that's probably the path that we need to take. And certainly you hear from a lot of businesses that can't find the labor that they need, and not just farms, but other businesses without that labor force. And so there's, and bottom line is we're a nation of immigrants. So in the end, we have to deal with this problem.
Secure the borders?
Oh, First step has to be secure the borders. And it's the same issue as amnesty, by the way. You know, if you don't do that, you're creating these criminal enterprises, you know, the guns, drugs, and people movers, coyotes, I guess they're called, you know, that transport things and people into the country illegally. If you secure the border, you cut down on that. If you create a work visa kind of regime that allows people to get into the country if they're coming here for legal purposes and to work in a job, you know, where we need the labor force, then they won't need a coyote, right? They can come into the country and go about their business.
A couple quick questions before we run out of time.
Sure.
We don't seem to have a foreign policy. Can anybody tell us what our foreign policy is anywhere in the world today? I mean, I don't know what it is. I don't know what we're doing in Ukraine. I don't know what we're doing in Iran. I don't know what we're doing with Egypt, Lebanon, and the list goes on. We don't know. Afghanistan, we don't know what our foreign policy is.
Yeah.
We do know that we have a very strong ally in the middle of all of that, and that is Israel. What's your feeling about the United States' support of Israel?
Well, Israel has been our strongest ally in the Middle East for many, many years. They are faced with existential threats from their neighbors, but particularly from Iran now. For, you know, a nuclear Iran would be, you know, overtly a threat to Israel's existence and its people's existence. So we need to be absolutely clear that Israel has that special ally-friend relationship that we have with a few countries, and that we will absolutely stand with them, stand beside them, support them in protecting their borders. I mean, they're a democratic country. They're a freedom-loving country, and they are a strong ally and an important ally in the Middle East. And we need to be much better about communicating, you know, with our adversaries or those who are not our friends in the international community, who we stand with, and we need to be a lot more decisive in dealing with these with countries. I mean, what we're doing right now is empowering and encouraging our enemies, and I think has resulted in Russia feeling empowered to invade Ukraine.
We have, under this administration, Jeff Merkely has certainly supported it, the cutback of our military, the funding of our military. What's your response to that?
Well, I think in today's world, we run the risk of focusing on terrorist-type activities, on more surgical strike capabilities, and we certainly have moved in that direction, given what we've been confronted with. But now we see China and Russia being aggressive, and they are conventional war-type countries. I mean, they have massive armaments and the ability to project power. We need to be very cautious about diminishing our conventional warfare capabilities in that kind of an environment, and we need to be. So I don't support the administration's cuts of defense, in part because what it does, it puts our soldiers and our people in jeopardy in the world if we weaken ourselves, and it further encourages our enemies.
Well, Jason, look forward to having you tonight.
Yeah,
and it'll be fun. It'll be 6:30 this evening at the Medford Library, and you're more than welcome to come and be a part of it. And how do people get a hold of you and your campaign if they want to get involved and support you?
The easiest way is to go to our website, which is congerfororegon.com.
Congerfororegon.com. That's the simple way.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming in, and best to you.
Thanks, Barry.
Okay, we'll be right back.